Shrapnel came in through the open window and smashed her mirror. Well, that wasn't playing fair, I didn't reckon, and it was time to do something about it.
The reason I did it, I didn't want those bastards in my mum's backyard, in a nutshell. I saw no reason why they should come here, and I had every intention of stopping them coming here. I think a boy thinks like that, doesn't he?
Civilian pilot Dave Mallon is flying his second hour of Spitfire training. At this stage, his instructor Carolyn is instilling in him the basics of level flight, climbing and diving, as well as the art of the tight turn. These have to become second nature should Dave ever need to enter combat.
Try and maintain your height, so choose a height you want to maintain. 2-7, yeah. Keep this turn going. And now just reverse it around to the other direction. No problem. And reverse it back the other way.
Back in July 1940, the pilots of Fighter Command were discovering just how limited their training had been. Nobody had prepared them for the shock of meeting the enemy for real.
When I looked over to my right, I saw some aeroplanes with swastikas on them, or crosses they were from that position, flying below there. And I called up and I said, oh, I can see some aircraft down there with crosses on. And my leader said, that's a bloody enemy, you fool.
I just saw these yellow-nosed aircraft going past me, and I was actually, believe it or not, admiring them. They looked so pretty, and I suddenly realised that that was the enemy. So I started firing at them. By that time, someone had got onto my tail, and that was the end of my first encounter. They shot me down.
The yellow-nosed Messerschmitt 109 was the mainstay of the Luftwaffe fighter force and a formidable opponent.
It was nice to see it below you when it hadn't spotted you, but it was nasty to see it behind you. That was quite unnerving.
Although a fine aircraft, the 109 was much harder to fly than the Hurricane or Spitfire, a real disadvantage in the rush to get novices up into the air.
When I was at Duxford and saw some German pilots, I said, do you know why the Spitfire was a better aeroplane than the Messerschmitt 109? And they said no. And I said, any idiot could fly a Spitfire, but it took a lot of training to fly a 109.
Unfortunately for the RAF, German pilots were among the best in the world, many of them battle-hardened.
On the English side, there were good pilots, but they had no experience of war. On our side, of course, we had men who had been in combat. They had flown in Spain, or like me, in the war against Poland.
For most in Fighter Command, this would be their first experience of fighting at all. One of the most vivid accounts of what it is like was written by a young pilot called Richard Hillary. The book he wrote, The Last Enemy, became a classic, and he was later to record it for radio.
On the day after my arrival, I had my first taste of them. As we got the order to take off, and I climbed hurriedly into the cockpit of my machine, I felt an empty sensation of suspense in the pit of my stomach. For 1 second, time seemed to stand still, and I stared blankly in front of me. For I knew that that morning I was to kill for the first time. And we were off.
For RAF squadrons comprising of a dozen planes, the first shock was coming up against formations of German aircraft numbering in the hundreds. The result was chaos and confusion, requiring lightning-quick reflexes.
It was a melee, it wasn't a dogfight. Dogfighting ceased in the First World War as the airplanes got faster.
Airplanes going in all directions, all over the place.
So you spent most of your time trying to avoid running into someone.
The 109 had flashed past you.
To keep him in your sights, to have a chance of shooting him down, 2 seconds was too long.
You may turn and fire your gun.
It wouldn't be one continuous burst, it would just be...
You couldn't really do much more than have a squirt.
Bullets were flying everywhere.
Most fights were all
over in minutes, question of minutes, and then, as I say, everything was empty. So you just said, thank Christ for that, and went home.
You can have bullet holes when you get back, and you can say, good God, where did those come from? In fact, I picked up a spent bullet from the bottom of the cockpit once, and no idea where it came from.
We hear a lot in modern wars about friendly fire, and it was rife during the Battle of Britain. My examination of the records suggests that there were no less than 36 British aircraft shot down by their own side.
I'm quite sure it was another Spitfire that did me in, because I saw this other aircraft and I turned to display my wing plan, which was the obvious one because the 109s had straight-edged wings, cut off at the tip. The Spitfire had this elliptical wing, so that was an instant recognition for him, so I let him see it. But that was too late, and he'd shot off his bolt and it hit me in the petrol tank.
When you think of the speed at which events are occurring, if you think of the confusion of a dogfight, if you think that all you've probably got to go on is a glimpse of a silhouette, what are you going to do? Are you going to open fire or are you not going to open fire? Well, quite a lot of the time they open fire, and a lot of the time they actually hit them.
The only thing to be done was get out of the barbecue as quickly as possible. The flames were coming out and sort of burning off my uniform and a bit of me in the process. And the next thing I knew, I was floating down through the air without an aircraft.
Other pilots were luckier. On their very first sorties, they found themselves shooting down enemy planes as if by accident.
We were flying along in formation and saw a lot of black specks, which I thought was oil on the windscreen. They turned out to be 109s coming in the opposite direction. And one of them passed over my head by about 20 feet or so. You could see the oil streaks, I vividly remember, under his engine and almost count the rivets. I fired at him, and to my great surprise, he caught fire. And I was a bit horrified. Gosh, how did I do that?
So on my first sortie, I shot down 2 aircraft without knowing what was happening in the sky about me, why it was happening, or who was doing what to whom. I should have been shot down and killed myself.
We ran into them at 18,000 feet, 20 yellow-nosed Messerschmitt 109s, about 100 feet above us. And as they came down on us, we went into line astern and turned head on to them. I kicked the rudder to the left to get him at right angles, turned the gun button to fire, and let go in a 4-second burst with full deflection. He came right through my sights, and I saw the tracer from all 8 guns thud home. For a second, he seemed to hang motionless. A jet of red flame shot upwards, and he spun into the ground. It had happened. I realized then that I had felt neither pity nor sorrow for that man. If I were to die, I asked nothing better than to go the same way.
The controls of the Spitfire are very simple, especially compared to a modern aircraft.
The first thing we come to is the control column, and the top of this control column is a lovely